proving your doubters wrong, answering questions about if you're a tough team. Man, there are a lot of things we learned Saturday night as Ohio State beat Notre Dame 17-14, and we discuss some of them today on Locked On Buckeyes.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Victory Monday is back, and it feels oh so good. What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Buckeyes for the Locked On Podcast Network. I am your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is Monday, September 25th in the year 2023, and this episode is brought to you by our friends at LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs help find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Terms and conditions apply. During today's episode, we will discuss the answers the Buckeyes team, provided us about some of the questions we had about this team going into the season. And we learned that Ryan Day goes hard for his players. But first, Kyle McCord, Ohio State's QB1. Someone that I believed would be the guy that would win the quarterback battle, but also someone that I believed would be in the midst of a huge test Saturday night in prime time against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. That is a really good football team in Notre Dame that has a really good defense, a really physical football team. And I'm sure those boys right now on Monday are still recovering from the physicality that they endured and the physical play that they put out there in that game. Kyle McCord to this game, you look at the final numbers, the completion percentage is not what it was or close to what it was in the game against Western Kentucky. Has better defense, harder to throw the ball. Your guys are covered better. Things were a little bit different in this game. But Kyle McCord showed everybody, hey, if you doubted me going into this game, if you doubted me at any point in this game, hey, I can come up, I can make big boy throws, I can show up and show out when I need to, and I can lead my team down the field to score and on a game-winning drive while on the road in a hostile environment. Let's just think about this. Let's paint the picture this way. It's 14-10. 85 seconds left. I think it may have been 86. But 85 seconds are left for the Buckeyes to have a chance at winning the game. Now, yeah, there could have been a turnover. There could have been a whole lot of fiasco and craziness going on, but a little over a minute left, about less than a minute and a half left in the game. Buckeyes down 4. Kyle McCord's the guy. Kyle McCord is your quarterback. There were 4 completions on this drive. I went back and ended up counting 1, 2, was it 5? I think it's actually 5. There was a 3rd and 10 completion to Emeka Egbuka, 23 yards. A 2nd and 10 completion to Cade Stover for 3 yards. A completion on 4th and 7 to Julian Fleming for 7 yards. Just got past the first down marker. 2nd and 10 completion to Marvin Harrison Jr. for 19 yards. And then 3rd and 19, 21 yards to get down to the 1-yard line to Emeka Egbuka. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, whoa, buddy, these are tough throws to make. Now, the first one to Egbuka, yes, it's tough. The Notre Dame defense is really, really good. They're blanketing. They're changing coverages up. It was hard to figure out how in the world to get the ball to your number one guys or to your guys, both number one receivers, consistently. Cade Stover, that catch on the sideline, 3 yards. That was needed. The only designed run play that the Buckeyes had on their final drive was the last play of the game. The last play of the game was, last offensive play for the Buckeyes when they scored the touchdown. That was the only run of that entire drive. Everybody knew McCord had to sling that thing because the Buckeyes were not going to try to run the ball consistently or back-to-back plays. It was all McCord. It was all Harrison Jr. It was all the receivers. It was the O-line. It was all on their shoulders. And Kyle McCord told everybody, hey, follow me. I got you. So as I went back and looked through this, and people sending me clips of stuff, Ohio State, putting videos on the Instagram and on the Twitter. NBC Sports literally relived that game-winning drive, putting that on the Instagram as well. This is not a part of my regular viewing or rewatch of a game. No, this is just right in front of me on the socials. That 3rd and 10, the initial one to Ibuka, that could have sparked something to move the ball a little bit quicker, but what do we have after that? Incompletion. There were multiple incompletions on this drive. Almost over half of the throws that Kyle McCord threw on that final game-winning drive were incomplete passes. That could have derailed his confidence. That really could have got him off his game. That could have messed up his mentals. What did he do? He stayed locked into the game plan. He stayed locked into what Ryan Day was asking him to do. He stayed locked into what his team needed him to do, and we see the final outcome. Game-winning drive. He didn't score the final touchdown, but best believe he was a big part of the final process and the final points being put on that scoreboard. But if I could highlight a catch, it's not just down in distance, the down and how many yards you need to get a first down. Julian Fleming is one of those guys that is not going to get the attention of Harrison Jr. and Emeka Ibuka. Julian Fleming is one of those guys that is a solid player. Now, there were times even during this game when I'm saying they might want to get somebody out there that's a little bit more of a threat in the passing game to kind of alter how Notre Dame is guarding and defending Ibuka and Harrison Jr. Why? Because even on this drive, there were times that Fleming was open. I believe it was one-on-one coverage. He made that catch and got tackled. Harrison Jr. is double covered basically the entire game. Ibuka is having two guys around him and close to him the entire game. Cade Stover might get one-on-one, but even then, Notre Dame's pass defense on him and coverage is really, really good. And so when you think about that drive alone, and I could go through the rest of the game and discuss some things about Kyle McCord and just why I'm glad he is a Buckeyes QB1, he could have easily fallen under pressure. He could have easily been somebody where you're saying, how does McCord do this? Well, you're looking at him and saying, well, he doesn't. Why? Stakes are too high. Stage is too big. Lights are too bright. He can't rise to the occasion. He clearly did. He clearly rose to the occasion. And we're here to relive this and talk about this. And trust me, this is one of those games that we're going to talk about for a really long time. Think about how it is for you. In my Buckeye lifetime, a Buckeye fandom, I don't really talk about Holy Buckeye a lot. I talk about that national championship. I don't really talk about the game against Texas or the games against USC, the home-and-home series back in the mid-2000s. No, I don't really do that. But for some reason, I do talk about losses in the Natty to LSU and to Florida during that same time period. Yeah, I could talk about that Rose Bowl against Oregon. Boone Heron scored on the right sideline by the front pylon. I can do that. What also can we talk about? Talk about the Buckeyes and things that happened. Maybe Braxton Miller spin move, as Chris Fowler said on the ESPN. Maybe it was an ABC game. Does not matter. I remember that call. Talk about Curtis Samuel beating Michigan and jumping over the goal line, arms extended. The fans come on the field, rush the field. I can talk about that. Beating Alabama. There are things in my lifetime as a Buckeye fan that I talk about to this day, even if they happened 20 years ago. And I think 20 years down the road, we'll be talking about that game and what Kyle McCord did during that final drive, because it's not only a confidence boost for him, it also shows us what he is made of. He's consistent. He has it. He has that dog mentality in him. And man, I'm still marveling at some of those throws that he made in crunch time that helped the Buckeyes and led the Buckeyes to beat Notre Dame in prime time on Saturday night. Kyle McCord proved some doubters wrong, but the Buckeyes team overall answered some major questions. What questions did they answer? We'll tackle that next on Locked On Buckeyes. This episode is brought to you by our friends at LinkedIn Jobs. These days, there you go, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. It's free to create a job post at LinkedIn Jobs. Once you create your job post, add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every single day. Starting once again, when the Buckeyes return to the field after the bye week this weekend, there will be a Locked On Buckeyes post-game show live on the YouTube page. I don't believe I did a good enough and adequate job of promoting that last week. You'll get a post-game show that goes live at the conclusion of that Buckeyes game, and then we'll come back on Monday through Friday to do our regular scheduled programming. More thoughts about the game upon further review or rewatch on Tuesday. I will also unveil my college football top 10 on the Tuesday show. Wednesday, turning the page. This week, turning the page is to the bye week. Next week, it'll be turning the page to the Maryland Terrapins. Thursday, Friday will be a lot different this week than it will be next week as we get a preview of the next opponent, maybe a crossover with another Locked On host, and then Friday, final thoughts before the next Buckeye football game. This team, man, I'm not going to shy away from this, and I am going to be honest with you. There were questions I had, and we discussed them here on the show about the football team. May it be the quarterback. May it be the running backs. May it be the offensive line. May it be the tight ends, wide receivers, defensive linemen, linebackers, secondary, whatever it might be. Maybe you have questions about the coaches. You may have a lot of questions that maybe you have not discussed, maybe thought about because, well, it hadn't come to your mind yet, but it came into your mind on Saturday night. There were a lot of questions we had about this team, toughness being one of them. There were a lot of questions we had about this team. How will they respond on the road in prime time against a Notre Dame football team? I haven't put my top 10 together yet at the time of this recording. My gut tells me Notre Dame with one loss will still be a top 10 team in my college football top 25 that will be submitted to the Locked On Podcast Network here shortly. Why? Name 15. How many schools can you, based on the football you've seen this year, how many schools do you think can beat Notre Dame? I just leave it like that. And I have heard people say, and I'm going to make some comments about Notre Dame here that I wasn't planning on making. I've heard people say that without an ACC conference championship or a championship game in general, their path to get to the playoff is a whole lot tougher, which is true. However, they can still make the playoff. If they win out, they beat USC. If they win the rest of their games, I think they play Florida State or Clemson this year, they're going to the playoff. I don't care. One loss, it does not deter them from me or I hope any of the voters in the CFP committee putting them in the playoff because that is a really good football team. But with that being a really good football team, we wondered how the Buckeyes would respond. Sometimes I even wondered, I don't shy away from this. I question Ryan Day at times. I question maybe offensively the philosophy or things should change based on how things have gone for the team. We talk about it. Y'all can go clip stuff audio-wise or YouTube-wise. Y'all can clip stuff and say, Jay said this, Jay said that. It's out there. Jay will also say this. There are times that I am wrong, and I'm not shying away from acknowledging that I have been wrong before. This is one of those times where I will acknowledge that I was wrong. This team is a whole lot tougher than I expected. Now, I did not question their toughness in the way that maybe other people did, but I didn't know how tough they were. I didn't know how much grit they had. I didn't know how much grind they had. We hadn't seen it from this unit. We just didn't know. Yes, this is a lot of the same team, a lot of the players that played against Georgia a year ago. But even then, there were times that, hey, maybe they had the grind, but the mental capacity to stay locked in all 4 quarters was not there. What did we find when it came down to the nitty-gritty of the fourth quarter for things to be done for the Buckeyes to win the game? Fourth quarter, Notre Dame scores 14-10, 11-play drive, 96 yards. And then Buckeyes turn the ball over on downs. The very next drive, the Buckeyes ended up forcing a punt. And that could have been one of those drives where it's like, oh, man, this is going to be tough. This is going to be hard. This is going to be one of those areas that we're not able to stop Ohio State. Ohio State is stop Notre Dame. Mentally, things are a little bit difficult. They just scored. We're down. We can fold in. No. I have seen games against Michigan. The Buckeyes have mentally not been all the way there for all 4 quarters. There are mental lapses in discipline against Georgia. Mental lapses. Let's go back to 2021 against Oregon. Sometimes it was in preparation. Sometimes it was in confusion with things that were going on in the game. The Buckeyes tired, worn down physically. Notre Dame's offensive line wore down the Buckeyes' defensive front for most of the game. They didn't lose focus. They stayed engaged. They made sure that they were not going to quit. They were not going to lose focus. They were going to be locked in and tuned in the entire game. And this is something that I believe this is a program building moment for Ryan Day. Now, I'm going to get more into Day in a second, but I need to make this comment about Ohio State's head coach, because I have been critical of him. You guys know that. This is no secret. Jay has been critical of Ryan Day for numerous reasons that deserve to be discussed here on the show. But man, this coach found a way this week to maybe use some things that outside voices were saying to motivate his team, to maybe find some areas and find some ways that were maybe unconventional for him to allow his team to be locked in the entire time. This team, Ryan Day, this could be a moment. Now, let's say Ryan Day is at Ohio State for another 5 or 10 or 15 years. This could be the moment where things kind of shifted. Because until this point in the regular season, Ohio State loses these games. 2019, 2020, no non-conference. 2021, 2022, 2021, Oregon. Now, Oregon was not as good as this Notre Dame team. 2021, 2022, big-time games that were teams that were the caliber of this year's Notre Dame team. What do you find? The Buckeyes were not mentally able to stay locked in the entire game. Also, 2021, they weren't the better team. 2022, they were better, but Notre Dame just found a way to wear down and to just gash the Buckeyes. And there has been questions about what Ryan Day's teams do in these moments. And this could just be one of those moments, man, where you see something shift and click. And some of that recruiting, once you get Urban's guys not out, not saying they're bad guys, but Urban's guys are not there anymore. Most of them, some of them are, but most of them are out. Day's guys are in, and we're finding this could be a pivotal moment in Ryan Day's career coaching at Ohio State. You get this kind of win under your belt on the road, man, you can say, look, hey, against Maryland, if it gets tough, we did this against Notre Dame. Let's take care of these Terrapins. Oh, Penn State at home, we did this against Notre Dame. Let's take care of these Lions. Oh, against Michigan on the road in Ann Arbor. Oh, we did it against Notre Dame. Let's take care of our rival. Let's do it. We've done it once. We can do it again. And this is a moment that for the people, a part of this team, where people question, can they win a big game like this? Can they stay locked in? Do they have the right players to accomplish and lead this game and end this game with a W? They got them. And over the weekend, between Saturday night's game and today recording the show, I'm sitting here thinking, man, I'm proud to be a Buckeye fan, and I'm excited for what might happen this season because of what we witnessed in prime time on Saturday night. We also got to see a different version of Ryan Day post-game, and also there were some videos from the press conference as well of Ryan Day being a little bit out of character, but I love that version of Ryan Day that we got. What am I speaking of? I'll discuss it next on Locked On Buckeyes. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Athletic Brewing Company. Now time for your game changer of the week, brought to you by Athletic Brewing Company. Much like Chip Trainum, Athletic Brewing has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game, letting non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good. Chip Trainum, one of the guys that the Buckeyes have in their running back room, really talented, but his number is not always called upon as much as it may have been if he stayed at Arizona State a couple of years ago. Transfers to Ohio State to play linebacker. Last year, had to get moved back to the running back room due to injury. This year, decided to stay at running back. He's not RB1, he is RB2, but today he might be number one in your heart for the biggest touchdown that he's ever scored in his life, in his Buckeye career, because it propelled the Buckeyes to beat Notre Dame Saturday night in prime time. Athletic Brewing Company has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good. Their brews are great tasting and award-winning and beat out full-strength beers in global competitions. You can find Athletic Brewing Company's non-alcoholic brews at a store near you or buy online at athleticbrewing.com. First-time customers can use code LOCKEDON to get 15% off your first online order. That's code LOCKEDON at checkout for 15% off at athleticbrewing.com. Near beer, exclusions apply. Athletic Brewing Company, fit for all times. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every single day. If you missed Saturday night's post-game show, it is on the YouTube. It is on the audio feed of the podcast. You could find it in the Insta reaction. I believe I put it in the right folder for the Locked On Buckeyes podcast playlist. That's at the top of your feed on the YouTube channel. It's also in the Locked On Buckeyes live or even post-cast for Locked On Buckeyes. There's numerous playlists that are there. This video will be a part of that. On audio, it's just the next video prior to this one in your feed. You'll get more live post-game shows from me. Also down the road, might get a guest or two on the show, but until then, it'll be you and I reacting together to the Buckeyes game that they just played. This one was another win. My mood in this one was a little bit different because, just to be honest with you, I'm we'll go a little behind the curtain and get the get kind of the thoughts heading into that show. I had the rundown already made up for that post-game show, and it was made up for a Buckeyes loss. And then all of a sudden, Chip Trainum ran that thing in, touchdown, Buckeyes hit the extra point, 17-14, game's over. Well, I had to quickly shift my mind to Buckeyes win, not Buckeyes loss, and my emotions were all over the place, which could have been why that post-game show was full of the emotions of shock and awe and wow, and what did we just watch? We just watch Ryan Day act a little different. I won't say out of pocket because I think out of pocket is not the right word to say, but he acted a little bit different in the post-game presser. Ryan Day responded to some things that former Notre Dame coach, college football legend, former ESPN employee Lou Holtz made about Ryan Day, and he questioned the toughness of Ohio State. I don't have the exact wording of Lou Holtz's comments, but Ryan Day with Catherine Tappan of NBC Sports after the game and the on-field post-game interview, Ryan Day said, "Hey, where's Lou Holtz? Where does he get this stuff? Where does he come up with this stuff? You know what? You know what we learned tonight? That's a tough team. That's a tough team." And Ryan Day publicly acted a little different and showed the world and the entire country he's going to ride for his players no matter what. It doesn't matter what the outside sources or outside voices say about his team. He's going to ride for his guys every single day. Ryan Day made this comment. This is the one quote that I got from him. Quote, "It's always been Ohio against the world. and it'll continue to be Ohio against the world, end quote. And you know what? He's right. Ohio State is looked at in a different lens than any other team in the entire country. Similar to the lens that people view Notre Dame in, but the intensity of how they view the Buckeyes is even more intense than that. The Buckeyes, if they have an incompletion, they're not good. Oh, if they have a 2-yard loss on a run play, oh man. And he would just start, the boo birds just come out and start throwing darts here, there, and make some idiotic statements, which Ryan Day even also in his post-game presser, this was in front of the media. Ryan Day reacted once again, was talking about how he doesn't know where people get this stuff. He's like, people make comments and make statements about this team. They don't watch the film. It's easy. It's clear. They don't watch the film. And he said, hey, over the past couple of days, he was surprised and shocked at some of the things that are being said about Ohio State and the team. And he said, hey, you guys are making these statements. You don't watch the film. How do I know you don't watch the film? Because if you watch the film, you would make these statements. I like a coach like this. Reminds me of the old school college football coaches that were always some personalities came out a little bit more. And I know Bobby Bowden. I've seen interviews with him. Not saying that he's going to be Bobby Bowden down the road. But, man, if it happens, you got a legend on your hands. Hey, you're literally watching a legend mature as a coach right in front of your eyes. I love a coach that's going to ride for me, man. I love a coach in my corner that, hey, Lou Holtz, Kirk Herbstreit, Desmond Howard, Joel Klatt, Gus Johnson, maybe some of the guys that aren't the natural opinionists of the sport or analysts, or Greg McElroy or Jesse Palmer. I'm just naming guys that are analysts. Not saying that they're saying bad things about the Buckeyes, just guys that pop into my head. Ryan Day saying this. Whoever it is, if it's another college football great coach, doesn't matter. You can make statements. You can throw darts. You can do whatever you want to. No matter what, I'm going to ride for my guys. And if I got to call you out publicly, I will do that. Why? Because if you're going to make a public statement about me and my team, I'm going to make a public statement about you and call you out for the idiotic things that have come out of your mouth. Out of here on a Monday. Got 4 more shows left this week. Upon further review is tomorrow. We rewatch the game, get a little bit deeper, and learn a little bit more about what went down when the Buckeyes beat Notre Dame 17-14 in Notre Dame Stadium. You can follow me on X at jstevens07. You can send all of your emails to jstevens317 at gmail.com. Thanks for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen of every single day. Now for your second listen or watch, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. Locked On Sports Today provides you with all the info you need going on in and around the world of sports in 20 minutes every single day. Locked On Buckeyes and the Locked On Sports Today podcast, they're both a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This has been Locked On Buckeyes here on a Victory Monday. Feels so good. I'll see you next time.